everybody, Kendra here from SBK Shop, and today I am doing a tutorial on the Ellie and Mac Beatbox Romper. This is just an adorable pattern. I'm so excited to share it with you and hopefully help you out as you try it for yourself. Have fun, guys! So here we have all of our pieces cut out and ready to go. 2 pockets, and here I'm using the trees as the lining just because the cotton lycra is nice and heavy, and with pockets it can be a little finicky sometimes, and this double brushed poly is just really fuzzy and thin. Then we have our leg bottoms, sleeves, bottoms of the sleeves, the lining and the outer of the hood, and you can see this is 2 pieces for each, our hood band, our front, and I ran out of room here on my table, and our back piece. So let's get ready to sew. So very first thing we're going to start with is our pocket. You're going to take both pieces and place them right sides together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew around almost the whole thing, but you need to leave a little hole for turning. And this is actually the only piece of this project that I'm going to use my sewing machine on. So we're going to sew here around the curve. I feel like the sewing machine gives me a little bit more accuracy here than just using my serger. And since this is such a little pocket, you really want to go for accuracy. It's going to really stand out on the front of your garment. So you want both sides to be very even looking. So I do have a walking foot on my machine, and it's actually an off-brand that I got for much cheaper than name brand ones. Oh, it says Brother on the side, but it was only about $15 on Amazon, and it works quite well. So here we go. And lift your foot and turn. Lift and turn. This gives you nice sharp corners. And again. Okay. Okay, and our pocket's done. So now we're going to trim off these little excess pieces so that we have a slimmer profile when we turn it right side out. Okay, trimming's complete, and you can see that I actually didn't trim where I left the hole for turning. I find this easier when you're going to be top stitching this closed to have little flaps to tuck in so that you aren't just like working with a teeny tiny edging. It also makes a difference to clip your edges at a diagonal, and that way you get a nice sharp corner when you turn your item inside or right side out. So now I'm just taking a quick moment to iron this, and it's always important to make sure that you're pressing step by step. My poor husband will attest to the fact that I only use my iron when I'm sewing. And I very, very rarely iron clothes. The poor man almost always irons his own clothes. So we're just gonna give it a quick press here. And you can see here is my opening. I'm just gonna tuck those in so that they're even with the top, the rest of the stitching, and go ahead and press over that spot as well. Might hit it with a little bit of steam. Okay, and there we have our pocket. Okay, time to do those nice long leg cuffs. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult when you have a really long cuff to get the seams just lined up and you have to fiddle with it. This is a great little trick I learned called the ham hot method from Self-Sewn Wardrobe, Mallory Donahue. What you're gonna do is fold in half, right sides together. So this is called the hamburger part, where you have the part that would go around your wrist or your ankle. Then you're gonna fold it in half again, hot dog. And then what you're gonna do is take this over to your serger and just sew one single seam down the side. So I will be right back. Okay, here we go. So you can see we have one single seam, and it's kind of gonna look like this here on the side. And all you have to do is just reach inside, turn it inside out, and you have a cuff. And now you only have a single line of stitching, so your seam is less bulky, and you don't have to mess with getting it to turn perfectly right side out. Okay, time to do the hood. So here I have one of my hood pieces. This is my inner. And what you need to do is sew along the curve that's going to make the hood. Here you have the opening for the bottom. You're going to connect that to the neckline. And here's the opening for the face. So just remember, one seam around the curve. You're going to do this for both the inner and outer pieces. So here I have the three pieces of the hood, and now we're going to assemble them together. I have my inner, which I've left right sides together, my outer, which I've turned, and then our little hood edge piece, which I've pressed in half. So what you're going to do now is find the center of your edge and mark it with a pin or a clip. And then you're going to take it and put it attached to our hood outer. Starting in the middle, you're going to stretch gently. You can see that it's a little bit shorter. And just pin baste it in a couple of spots because we're going to then attach our inside, which I'll show you in a minute. It's always fun working with curves. Okay, I'm just going to pin it in two spots, two other spots. So then I'm going to come all the way to the end here, throw a pin in, and then stretch it so I can see here kind of the middle, pinch, and pin. Do the other same for the other side. So pin at the end, stretch, pinch at the center, and pin. Okay, now what you're gonna do is take your inner, and we're actually going to slide it on top of these two pieces. Open it up, slide in, and here is where we're gonna add a few more pins. So you're gonna take it apart. So now we'll have 4 layers of fabric: our inner, our outer, and our band. Sandwich them together and repin them all together. Do the same as you go around. And I'm going to follow the same method. Go to the end, repin, stretch, pinch, repin. Same for the other side. Okay, ends, line them up and repin. Oh, hello, Sparky. My daughter just wandered in. And pinch. Get those fabrics lined up. Pin there. Now it's really up to your comfort level if you feel like you need to stretch and add another pin here or not. I feel pretty comfortable making sure my stretch is even, so I'm just going to leave it with the 3. Honey, quiet for a minute. With the 3 pins, and go ahead and sew all the way around that line. Okay, so there you can see we have 2 seams across here now. And now what we're going to do is mark the center. Well, we're going to quarter this, okay? Now, a mistake that gets made a lot of times is that people think, oh, quarter, okay, front, back, side, side. But that wouldn't be true quarters. You want to make sure that you actually line it up like so that you're getting actual quarters here. Okay, see how that's different? You've got almost a full inch of difference there. So go ahead and mark those spots with your chosen weapon of choice. I don't know why I'm using pins so much today. Normally I use my Wonder Clips a lot more, but you know, gotta change it up sometimes. Okay, now I'm just folding straight in half so that I can see where my other 2 points are. Just throw a pin in there to mark, and a pin here. Okay, now we're gonna take our hood, and here is where things might vary a little bit. If you want to top stitch along the edge here, you can, but you don't have to. And then you're going to add your hood. So here I actually have a cover stitch machine, which is my new baby. It's beautiful. It's a Juki MCS 1500, and myself and several of my seamstress friends actually own the same machine. We just all love it. If you can swing getting a cover stitch, I highly recommend it. It makes top stitching just so easy, which you will see here in just a second. Okay, so I'm just going to top stitch my hood.
Okay, so you can really hardly see it on this fabric, but now we have our pretty top stitch. So now we're going to be attaching the hood to the bodice. And what you're going to do for the hood is also separate it by the back seam. I'm just going to turn you around here so you can see. There we go. Okay, so we have our back seam. And we're going to clip that there. And then we're also going to quarter it just as if we were, we had like a full circle. So how I do that is I fold it, and this does cross over a little bit, so I'm taking that into account. I'm going to fold this side over a tiny bit. So see, then we get that nice crossover in the front of the hood. And I like to start at the back. That way, just in case you don't pull quite correctly, you have a little bit more leeway to fix things in the back than you would on the side or the front. You can make it look even that way if you start at the back. Sometimes if I don't pull quite enough when I'm doing this, then I can add a little pleat right at the back and it looks like it's on purpose. Just lining everything up. Okay, here's where you need to be careful right at the front. You have everything lined up correctly. And make sure that it goes under your presser foot. This first piece doesn't get turned. Sometimes you have to lift your presser foot, smooth it out, and then go back down. Okay, so when I finish off serging in the round, I usually serge over by about 1 inch the stitches I've already done, and then I just cut my tail. And because I have a woolly thread in here, the stretch thread, once it goes through the wash, once it just kind of puffs up and just locks itself right in. I've never had any trouble with it coming undone. So now our hood is attached. Flip it right side out so you can see it here. Ta-da! Okay, so before we attach the sleeves and put on the, or run our side seams down, you want to attach your pocket, because it is way easier to do this flat than it is with it all together and scrunched up. And through trial and error, what I've found works best is actually to take the back side of your pocket and take little pieces of tape and just go ahead and stick 3 or 4 pieces of double-sided tape on here, making sure that you aren't too close because you don't want to get where you're going to be putting seams. But just get your tape on there, flip it over, and this pattern does come with a a guideline where you want the top of your pocket to be, but you can just eyeball it too, which is what I'm going to do right now. That looks about right. And you want to measure sides, make sure that you're even there. Okay, our pocket is now taped. I found that this just lays it a lot flatter and nicer than trying to pin it, because you know how sometimes pins will scrunch a little bit. And with pockets like this kangaroo pocket, it's just so finicky. So we're going to do it this way. Now, make sure you don't sew along the edges. I've done this before. What I've done is just run a stitch down each side, okay, top stitch, and then you're going to go from here around and then across the top. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're going to start with the bottom piece. And if you have a cover stitch machine like this that doesn't have a lot of space right here, a lot of times what I'll do is just roll up the excess so it's nice and tidy and stays out of my way. Get her lined up here. Okay. Lift and turn. Get right to that edge where you know you have just enough room for a line of stitches. And turn. Okay, bottom is done. And now let's do the top. So for this, I'm just gonna do the exact same thing as far as rolling. So I'm gonna start at the bottoms of the legs and just roll all the way up over the bottom of my pocket. Just like this. Okay. And make sure we're not too far over here. There we go. Okay. Okay, our pocket is on. Rejoice! Next, we're going to be adding the sleeves. So as I do these sleeves, I'm actually going to be putting the body on the bottom of the machine. I just feel like, for me at least, it's easier that way to get everything lined up. But you can do it either direction. So we're just gonna get this lined up here and get these two seams done. Can you hear the tiny humans in the background? One down, one to go. Apparently there are tiny cheetahs running through my house. Always a joy. They really are, though. Okay, sleeve shoulders are done. And take our sleeves, fold them in half, and we're gonna do one big seam. Starting at the edge of the sleeve, here's the armpit. You're gonna turn and go all the way down the bodice, or the body of your romper, down to where we're gonna be attaching the leg cuffs. You're gonna do that on both sides. What I've done here is started at the bottom of my legs, gone all the way up the side of the romper, and along the sleeve all in one seam. Now, I heard somewhere the reason I started at the bottom is because I actually heard that if you sew bottom to top on a garment, that it will lay a little bit nicer. So that's the reason I started there instead of at the sleeves. And now what we need to do is sew this curved seam here, the crotch seam, okay? So from one side to the other, and then all we have to do is add our cuffs. Okay, so now our main body is done, and we have the nice long leg cuffs and our arm cuffs as well. And what we're going to do is tuck them inside here. So we're still inside out. We're going to tuck this right in. And with cuffs this small, I find it doesn't really help to pin or clip. They're just so tiny, and it's easy to stretch it that extra, 3/4 of an inch or so. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. To see more from me, please like, share, and subscribe. And the pattern as well as my personal ready-made shop links are in the description. So if you are in love with this particular romper, feel free to pop over to SBK and grab it before it goes. I will see you next time. Bye.